Let's talk about the Premier League title race. I think this is a really good time to talk about sort of the title race because we're over halfway through the season, so we can talk about everything we've learned this season and what this season really tells us about the title race. But the January transfer window is over. We're in that final stretch now. It's quite a long stretch. You've obviously got a bit of a break now, a bit of a break March International. But this is sort of, it's title race season. We're going to talk a little bit about the top four races as well. We're going to touch upon Newcastle City and Forest more at the end of this video. We'll talk a little bit about Chelsea as well. But we're going to focus on Arsenal and we're going to focus on Liverpool because Arsenal was 6 points behind Liverpool. They battered Manchester City. Was it 5-1? It was a dominant performance. Man City had gone out, they'd spent all that money, and someone asked me the other day, Alice, do you think Man City could get back in the title race? No, they're 15 points behind Liverpool. They could be 18 points behind Liverpool. City are not in the title race, 100% not in the title race. The only team, and I want to talk about Forest because we've got to respect Forest, but the only team that could possibly catch Liverpool is Arsenal. And I hate this as a Manchester United fan, but I'm going to talk about what Arsenal have. I'm going to talk about what Liverpool have, what this season's told us about Arsenal and Liverpool, and sort of my thoughts on the title race. Because, Liverpool have Everton. You'd expect them to beat that game. They will be 9 points clear. Liverpool and Arsenal have to face each other. If Liverpool lost to Everton and then Arsenal beat Liverpool, that gap could go to something like 3 points in that final stretch of the season. But Liverpool look unstoppable right now. You look at the Carabao, they just thrashed Tottenham 4-0. Newcastle completely outplayed Arsenal. Now, obviously, Newcastle's a much better side than Tottenham, so it's a bit hard to compare, and the Carabao Cup is different to the Premier League. So we're going to break down everything we sort of learned this season because Arsenal have not invested. They've got more injuries. Liverpool haven't invested, but I think Liverpool are going to invest big this summer, but Arsenal might as well. Now, if I'm going to just talk about this in general before I actually talk about what we've learned this season, I do think this whole Salah, Van Dijk situation and Trent, this potentially being their final season at Liverpool, which is a joke that it's come to this. And I don't know how they've not given Salah or Van Dijk a new contract. Trent, I think, wants Real Madrid, but we don't know that for sure. Could Spanish press be making it up for this and that? It's crazy because I also think with the Trent and Van Dijk situation, Casemiro was really, really good in his last season for Real Madrid. He got man of the match in the last game he played for Real Madrid, which was it the Super Cup? The game where the Europa League winner plays the Champions League winner. I should know what that's called, but it's been so long since United were in that. He was man of the match in that game. Then he went and joined United. And they got 70 million for Casemiro. Now, they got 70 million for Casemiro because Man United's one of the stupidest clubs in the world, and we were going to pay that money in a panic. But, Van Dijk and Salah, why would you lose them for free? Even if you put them on a new contract, there will be a team out there that would pay 50 million for one of Van Dijk or Salah, even at that age, even on high wages. Obviously, they wouldn't go to Manchester United, so it wouldn't be United, and I'm sure that you wouldn't want to sell Salah or Van Dijk anyway. But if they're looking at it from a financial perspective, which I assume FSG would, surely they'd want them on a new contract. I don't know. I think it's crazy that Salah and Van Dijk aren't on a new contract, so this could be their final season. There's loads of mixed reports saying it's close, and then some reports say it's not close. I have no idea what the situation's on that. But that could give Liverpool that extra motivation. Salah, Van Dijk, Trent, they want that final trophy. But it'd be interesting to see what happens with that. But Arsenal have something. Arsenal have something about them. And I'm going to quickly talk about Arsenal here. Arsenal keep picking up injuries in attack. And even when Saka was fit, I was saying Arsenal need another attacker. For me, I'm going to be brutally honest here because I tried to defend him a bit last season because I felt that the dynamics on the left-hand side don't suit him. And I do think he's a player that he does his best in certain systems with the right players around him. But Martinelli, for me, if you're a truly elite player, you don't always need the players around you. Look what Cole Palmer did his first season at Chelsea. Martinelli's a good player, but he's too reliant on the system, I feel like, for him to succeed. He doesn't have that individualness. And I think when you look at elite players in the Premier League and you look at teams that win titles, they have players that have that individualness, Salah gets stick sometimes because, he doesn't do loads of dribbles like Hazard, blah, blah, blah. But Salah has individualness where, Salah could be playing in a crap team and he will just go and run rings and score a goal. And Martinelli doesn't. Saka has it as well. He has that individualness where when Arsenal were bad, Saka was good. When England are bad, Saka are good. Martinelli seems to be impacted by the environment, the players around him. And I think other than Saka, Arsenal have a lot of players that are sort of system players that are impacted with the players around them and the form and this and that. Whereas Liverpool have players like Gakpo that I think would perform well for a crap side. Salah that would perform well for a crap side, had they been thrown in there. And I think that gives Liverpool a weird advantage over Arsenal, because I think Trossard has a little bit of a clutch go on him here and there, but I think he's always better on the bench for Arsenal, sorry. Havertz is so hit and miss. Like, he can score goals, but I feel like he's not reliable enough. I think he's a good player, Havertz, but he's a bit wasteful in front of goal. And if you look at Arsenal's attack and you compare it to Liverpool's, Gakpo, when Liverpool are losing or equal, can score that goal to give Liverpool the lead or to equalise. So can Salah. Gakpo's so clutch the first time finishes. He's on track with 30 goal contribution season. And the biggest difference between Arsenal and Liverpool this season, I think, is that quality in attack, because I think some of the football Arsenal have played this season in defensive midfield in the first and second phase of the pitch is fantastic. The control Arsenal have. Like, Arsenal don't look uncomfortable in games. They don't know that they're going to lose any of their games. They don't. Apart from the Newcastle game, they don't look like they're going to lose any of their games. But they look uncomfortable in the final third, Arsenal. You know, Odegaard's not stepped up in Saka's absence. Saka stepped up in Odegaard's absence. Saka is Arsenal's best player. He's gone. He's a massive loss. But Arsenal can have all this ball, play all this great football, are good in defence, good in midfield, and they get to the final third and they don't have it. Whereas Liverpool, when they get to the final third, they have it. They have those game winners in Gakpo, in Salah, that I think Arsenal lack. And I think, obviously, Saka being out injured is a big problem. But even when Saka was fit, I felt that Arsenal lacked someone that was going to play striker or left wing, that was going to take a little bit of that pressure off Saka. Now, Havertz can score goals. Havertz can get good numbers. But Havertz is not maybe convincing enough yet. I still think he's a decent player, and I think he gets a bit over-criticised because Arsenal do play good football. They do have a very good team, and Arsenal might be my title favourites next season when they have everybody fit. If Arsenal can get some luck with fitness and they bring in 2 good attackers in the summer, they might be my title favourites next season, which might sound crazy if Liverpool walk away with the title this year and invest heavily. But I do, and I hate saying this as a United fan, do generally believe in this Arsenal project. And you've got Wanyeri, it's an incredibly exciting talent, but he's a 17-year-old kid. He's not going to save you in Saka's absence. He's great. He's your most exciting young player, but he's a 17-year-old kid. You've got Lewis Skelly and Wanyeri, the ones that are stepping up. And what a performance they put in versus Man City, and what a statement win that was for Arsenal versus Man City. But Liverpool also played Man City off the park. They're not the same Manchester City. And I just think, you know, while Arsenal's defence is solid, while the midfield is solid, there's not enough in the final third. And I think had Arsenal gone out and spent money on, got Ollie Watkins in, I think, yeah, they can catch Liverpool. And I still think Liverpool will win the league, but I still think Arsenal can catch Liverpool. But because Arsenal didn't go out in the window and sign another attacker, and because they've got so many injuries in attack, I just think if Arsenal catch Liverpool, it's because Liverpool fall off. Now, Liverpool are going to drop points between now and the end of the season. They're probably going to drop a couple of points, but so will Arsenal. But what I'm saying is, will Liverpool fall off like last season, where then they just, like the last 7-8 games, they just really collapse? And then Arsenal, even if Arsenal drop a few points here and there, they go above Liverpool? They could. There's a possibility, because Liverpool didn't invest. If there's a big injury, there's a possibility there. But because Arsenal didn't invest in a striker, I can't see them gaining ground on Liverpool. Even though Arsenal this time last year went on this ridiculous run after the Dubai trip, basically won every game but the Villa game, closed, I think, was it a 9-point gap on Liverpool? It will be down to Liverpool falling off, because Arsenal haven't done that investment for me. Now, in terms of Liverpool, as I said, Salah and Gakpo are output players. They're game winners. They could have a quiet game, Salah and Gakpo. And Liverpool might not play their best, and it can be 1-1. And then Gakpo scores to make it 2-1. How many times has Gakpo scored to make it 1-1, 2-1, 3-2, put Liverpool ahead or make Liverpool equal? Salah could have a bad game. But one thing about Salah is he knows where to be. I can't explain it, but he knows where to be. He knows where the ball's going to be passed. He knows where to be. He knows where to be in the right areas to get that shot, and he's just a lethal player. Salah could do nothing for half an hour, and then if you play that right pass, he'll know where to be to then get that shot. And if that shot goes in, that's a goal for Liverpool. He's got this special, I call it instinct thing about him. Now, Salah's an unbelievable player. And I think, you know, Salah, even in games where he doesn't score or assist, you'll see him create loads and dribble loads. And there's this myth that, you know, Salah doesn't do this or this. It's an absolute myth. Salah's been fantastic this season. But that's what Liverpool have over Arsenal, I think, is those two players. You look at sort of the firepower and attack. And I'm also going to say this now, Virgil van Dijk, and I'm saying this as a Man United fan, Virgil van Dijk is the best centre-back in the world. You know, you look at Saliba versus Newcastle, he got rinsed. Van Dijk wouldn't. You know, Isak's unbelievable. That wouldn't happen to Van Dijk. Saliba can easily become the best centre-back in the world in a couple of years. He easily can, but he's 23. Van Dijk is at his prime. He's finally recovered from the bad injury he had. He's been unbelievable lately, Van Dijk. Back to prime Van Dijk level. And Saliba's not at Van Dijk's level yet. And that's not a bad thing. That's not me taking a dig at Saliba. He's an unbelievable centre-back. Top 3 in the Premier League. But Gabriel's been better than Saliba this season. But Van Dijk is the best centre-back in the league. And I think there's quite a gap. I think Saliba's great. I think he's fantastic. But I think there's a gap between Van Dijk and the rest. I think Gabriel, you can argue second. Konate is definitely up there. Saliba's up there as well. But there's a gap between Van Dijk. I also think, Marino and Calafiore are brought in. Calafiore, I think, will be a starting left-back for Arsenal. And I think Lewis Skelly will eventually come into midfield. And Calafiore's had injury issues. But Marino's not been that impressive. Marino was meant to come in to be the left centre mid, bring that balance. And Arsenal seems to prefer Partey and Rice. And by the way, Partey and Rice have been fantastic for Arsenal this season. I think Odegaard's the one that's let them down. If I was going to be completely honest, I think Odegaard's been quite poor. But if you look at McAllister, Gravenberch, and Szoboszlai, that's elite in terms of balance. You've got Gravenberch that's completely press resistant, can drop deep, can break the lines, can play with his back to goal, be the progressor. You've got McAllister that can also thrive in deeper areas, but he likes to get between the lines, pick out the ball, play those quick passes, can cover ground, was played as a DM last season, can put in defensive shift, but he's got the ability to pick out and do those passer moves and all of that. And then you've got Szoboszlai, which is a workhorse that's going to do the press, that's going to do the physical work. You've got Gravenberch that's elite technically, you've got Szoboszlai that's elite physically, and you've got McAllister that's a blend of the three. You've got Jones to come off the bench, has had a good season. Endo, I know Slot doesn't use him a lot, but he's always been really good in his cameos. And there's still a player in Harvey Elliott. I think the injury, it's been a difficult season for him, but there's still a very good player in Harvey Elliott that I think is a 10 in Slot system can definitely do well. I think there's a player that he can break down low blocks. He offers something off the bench. If a team's defending really deep, Harvey Elliott can break down those low blocks. And you've got Salah, Trent, Van Dijk, which are obviously world-class players. They're arguably the best in the world in their position. But you've got players like McAllister, who you could also make an argument, World Cup winner. If he wins the Premier League this year, and he was your best player last season, in my opinion, and one of your best players this season, McAllister can count as world-class. Players like Gravenberch, this is his first proper season at Liverpool. But Gravenberch's on his way to be world-class, 100% as well. But Liverpool I feel for me, the only world-class player at Arsenal is probably Saka, and you can argue Gabriel. I think Gabriel's better than Saliba. Declan Rice is top draw. Odegaard, when in form, is top draw. Saliba will be world-class. There's no doubt about it. But for me, it's Gabriel and Saka. But Saka's not better than Salah and Gabriel's not better than Van Dijk. Liverpool just have a better team than Arsenal, in my opinion. But I do think Liverpool have some tricky fixtures and they could drop points. And Arsenal could capitalise on that. And Arsenal, in fact, are good enough side to capitalise on that. It's just they don't seem to score as many as Liverpool. Now, last game at Goodison Park, Everton have looked a lot better. I think Liverpool win that game, but I don't think it's going to be easy. Liverpool have had less rest than Everton. Wolves, they should win, but Molineux, I have to say, it wasn't an easy game for Liverpool when they went to Molineux earlier this season. Wolves, I don't think it was bad as where they are in the table suggests. Villa's going to be a tough game. Asensio, Marlon, Rashford coming in. Very ambitious project at Villa. It's always going to be a tough game. But I found in the big games this season, when Villa have had come up against a bigger side, they have struggled. City, I think that Liverpool will roll all over them. I do. Even though they've invested a lot, I just think Liverpool will win that game. Newcastle is the team I fancy. Out of all these teams here, if anyone's going to take points off Liverpool, be Newcastle, because they can go toe-to-toe with them. Southampton should be an easy win, but it wasn't for Liverpool last time. Liverpool have some difficult fixtures. They can definitely drop points. Arsenal, look, they should beat Leicester. They should beat West Ham. Forest could easily take points off Arsenal. Man United away. Okay, people are going to laugh. They're going to be like, you biased Manchester United fan. When Man United go to the Emirates, I always back Arsenal to win. But when Arsenal come to Old Trafford, I always back United to get something. Now, the problem is we are worse at home this season than we are away. We are dreadful at home under Amorim. We've barely won any games. We've barely scored any goals. But we beat Arsenal with the 10 men taking its penalties. One thing about Ruben Amorim is, against the Southamptons, against the teams where we're expected to dominate the ball and play good football, we're crap. But against the teams where we can just do off-the-ball work and all of that, like an Arsenal and Liverpool, we look a lot better. Chelsea, Arsenal, that's always an interesting game, but Arsenal seem to have the upper hand on that. And then Fulham's a bogey team for Arsenal, but you'd expect them to win. Now, obviously, I don't want to be disrespectful and rule Nottingham Forest out of this video. You know, they're not in Europe. They have that rest and they've got something about them. The only reason I don't think Nottingham Forest will win the league is because I think they're massively overperforming in terms of their XG, in terms of their players are overperforming, and I think naturally there could be a drop-off. But that's not a dig at Nottingham Forest. They're unbelievable. They're absolutely unbelievable, and it's definitely possible because if we go to the league, they are, if Liverpool lost to Everton, which I don't think will happen, they're 9 points off Liverpool still with 14 games to go. Like, it's doable. I don't think they do it, but Nottingham Forest getting in Champions League is a hell of a story. Nottingham Forest are fantastic players. Chris Wood is one of the most prolific players in the league. You know, you've got good players like Callum Hudson-Odoi. Langer's in unbelievable form. Gibbs White's obviously a top player. Aina's having a great season, but Milenkovic and Murillo, that centre-back pairing has been solid. One of the best centre-back pairings in the league this season. You've got players like Elliot Anderson that are really impressive. You can't rule Forest out yet because they've shown the big teams what they can do. The weird thing about Forest, though, is they lose 5-0 to Bournemouth, then they beat Brighton 7-0 the following week. They've got weak spots in that Forest side, and they definitely do better when they're a goal ahead or it's 0-0. When they go a goal down, they're not as good. But they've been unbelievable this season. And it is a battle for top 5 because there's a 99.999% chance that finishing 5th in the Premier League this season is going to get you into the Champions League. So I think it's the battle for the top 5. Now, Chelsea look the most like dropping off at the moment. They've been quite poor recently under Maresca. You know, this sort of nice run or new manager bounce is coming off. But Chelsea are the team currently in 4th. They have 2 points on both City and Newcastle. Now, if I was to be honest, I think Newcastle will finish above City and Chelsea. I do. Manchester City have spent a load of money, but I don't think they're fixed. I think they've still got problems. I would say Newcastle, then City, then Chelsea. And the reason I put City above Chelsea is because City have invested, Chelsea haven't. And I think Chelsea's sort of dropping off, and I think the mentality showing with the inexperience of Chelsea. I just think Newcastle not been in Europe as well. I think Newcastle finished top out of those 3 teams. But anyway, that's sort of my thought on the Premier League title race and what, you know, this season's told us so far in regards to the title race. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching. Bye.